you so much for doing this.
You're so welcome. I'm really happy to be doing it.
Yeah. So I'm an actor, obviously it's a website for actors, Daily Actor. So I guess just to start off with, what exactly is a movement coach? Because I would bet that some actors, especially newer ones, have no idea like this even exists.
Yeah. It really depends. I've learned this over the years. It depends on the actor and it depends on the project. But I always think of my job as having kind of two separate tracks. One of them is release work and embodiment work. So kind of dealing with how the actor's body responds to or doesn't respond to impulses, stimuli, circumstances, right? How their body processes or doesn't process what's going on inside of them. So it's that in that track, there's a lot of work on releasing, kind of liberating the actor's instrument, as it were. And then the other track is character development, physical character development. So that can be pretty radical and transformative depending on who the character is. It could be a really dramatic transformation from whatever the actor's body is at rest. Or it could be more nuanced, kind of looking at the way a character's body might transform or shift over the course of a season or a series or a play or a film. Where is their body at the beginning and where is their body at the end? So those are kind of the two, I keep saying this word, tracks, that kind of two tracks that, on some projects, one of them is more dynamic or involved than the other, And for some actors, they'll come to me and say, I'm really like needing to get comfortable in my body, or I'm feeling so stuck, or for some people, it's I'm having a hard time letting go of the performance I just did. It's living on in my body, or for some actors, they come to me and they're like, I really am curious about creating a physical character, So it's a lot. It's a lot of things. To me, it is, at least.
Yeah, I took movement classes in college.
Yeah.
And I can see what you're saying. I loved doing it. I loved sort of creating something like that, starting from movement first and then building outwardly,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To me, it's so interesting how the slightest shift in one's physicality can really inform our inner life a great deal, but you have to be receptive to it, right? So your body, the kind of channel of your body has to be clear enough that you can receive whatever shifts are happening.
Did you, hi, Pops. You can see the tail back there wagging.
Mm-hmm.
Did you start out as an actor originally?
I did. I trained as an actor. I grew up acting. I grew up, dancing. It didn't really lead anywhere for me. I kind of always knew I wanted to be an actor. So I trained as an actor. And in my acting training, this man, Nate Flower, actually, who also teaches at the Terry Knickerbocker Studio, said, hey, you're kind of gifted at this. I think I want to train you to teach it. And for years, I was like, okay, but I'm going to be a famous actor. Yeah, that's fine. But I've got bigger plans. And then over the years, I realized that actually was my calling. That was really where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do.
How did you realize that, so at what point was there like that sort of aha moment, I really want to teach this?
I don't know if it was an aha moment, but there was this time of my life where I was working so much as a movement teacher and a choreographer and a director, and I was struggling so much as an actor, and not just in the way that all actors struggle of how to, the struggle to get work, but it was kind of, and I really mean this, it felt like spiritually challenging for me to put myself out into the world as an actor. And that kind of came to a head where I realized I was so frustrated with not having agency as an actor and so at odds with the business of it. And kind of had this moment of, I don't think I can do this anymore. And then realize all of this, what my life really was. I was like, oh gosh, this is what I've been doing the whole time. I've been doing this movement stuff, So I just kind of shifted the lens and saw what my life was.
So when you are teaching at Terry's school, Terry Knickerbocker, what's kind of, is there a typical class, or like what what does a class like entail? Like,
Yeah, so we teach, the foundation of what we teach at Terry Knickerbocker is a work that's called the Williamson technique. And each one of us, there's a really full and rich movement department there. And each one of us has our own kind of lens through which we teach the Williamson work. But they are group classes that are at first really designed to free up your acting instrument or clear out the channel of the body, to really look at how each student is taking in and responding and how their body is getting in the way from that process. So that acting at its best is a real kind of impulsive taking in, responding. But there are all these things that happen in the actor's body that interfere with that process, tension, habits, postural habits. And so at first there's, what a typical movement class would look like is and maybe an hour and a half of really expansive improvisational movement to music, circular movement to music, and sometimes without music, and then a special emphasis on contact with other actors. So you're freeing up your body, and then you're looking at how that feels to be in contact with another actor. And then later on, it's a 2-year program. And so later on in the program, we start to train actors to see their body as a performative tool. They start thinking creatively and almost choreographically, or seeing, they'll compose, or compositionally, that's the word I'm looking for. So then they'll start to think about their body as a compositional tool, and it culminates in a final project that's a devised movement piece. So a regular movement class really changes depending where you are in the 2-year progression. But I think it's always a really dynamic group experience.
You've worked with a bunch of sort of name actors.
Yeah.
So when they get in touch with you, how do you guys go about getting started? Because I assume they would come in with their own ideas of what the character is. And do you go through the text with them and sort of look for clues? And how do you guys get started on like the physicality of a character?
Yeah, it really is different for everybody. I was just talking about this with a client the other day. There's that story about how Michelangelo would create a sculpture as if it was something that was emerging from a bath, that he would kind of like start at the front with the tip of the nose and then sculpt that way. That's what it feels like all the time with the character. It's like something that already exists. We just have to let it emerge. Typically, I start with movement, just getting them released, getting them in their bodies. Like I would with any student at Terry's studio. So we'll move, we talk a lot about the script and what ideas they already have about the character, who the character is. I'll give them a lot of different tools. So it's usually a couple of weeks of just giving them the information that I have, right? Like different approaches, different methods to access a physical character. And we try things out, just like, if we're working with a character with a certain psychology, there are different, you'll say it this way. When an actor is in training, there's what we are bringing into a classroom like a finished product of a person that's accumulated over however many years we're alive, right? So Julia Crockett has this special freak package that has, I call it a freak package, that our collection of habits, our collection of, the way we walk, the way we stand, the way we move, the way we hold ourselves, our carriage, our mannerisms. And that's the accumulation of a lifetime of information and psychology and experience. And so when we bring an actor into training, we have to do some clearing out of that, not to neutralize, but to make space for experience, right? So then when we get a play, when we get a character, we're given the psychology and we have to create the body. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so with an actor, the first thing that we do, besides getting them to move and getting them to kind of clear out their own stuff, is talk about where they see the psychology of the character, and where I see it, what significant things about this person would inform their physicality. And then there are sort of three categories that I make sure every actor tries to flesh out, which would be, what is this person's structure? So if we were to see a silhouette of them or shine a light from behind, what would actually the shape of them be? And included in that is their gait, how they walk, or their carriage. The second thing is, what is their kind of internal essence? And then the third is, what are their mannerisms? And we start to kind of try different things on, like try leading with this part of your body, or try this kind of drive internalized, or let's work with a metaphor of something. And it's really, sometimes it feels like flinging spaghetti at the wall at first, until something you're like, oh my gosh, that was him. And we both will feel like that was it. And then it kind of fleshes out from there.
You're a teacher and you're also an actor. Do you ever forget some of your own advice when it comes to the acting part of your life?
I don't act so much anymore, but I do. I think that there's this thing about teachers. This is less relevant to my experience as an actor, because that's not so much where my focus is anymore. But in the way I live my life, there are all sorts of lessons that I'm teaching people all around me that I think I'm teaching so that I can remember them. There's this, the foundation of the Williamson work that we teach at Terry's studio is all about awareness and permission. And the permission part of it, I find I struggle with sometimes. I have to really remind myself that it's all right, whatever it is that I'm feeling. And I think as a teacher or as a coach, sometimes there's this expectation that you are so evolved, or that you have all of the answers. And I'm constantly reminding myself that it's all right to not know. It's all right to not have the solution. That just showing up to a creative process is enough. So, yeah.
And then my last question is, you've taught actors for a while now, and you've been around them for most of your life. Do you have any advice that you sort of can give out that, might help, either someone struggling with it, or, even somebody who's done it for a while, like what would your sort of, your advice be to keep on going or whatever?
Yeah, I have been talking about this with a client who's a very successful working actor right now. And she and I have been talking about this idea of the work on yourself that an actor has to do, the daydreaming, the physical conditioning and training, the kind of the work on yourself as really being the project. Like that is, we've been using this metaphor of that the work on yourself is this ocean, right? The training, the self-training is this ocean. And the jobs are just little boats that are floating on this ocean that will come and they will go. And sometimes it's really crowded. There's a lot of boats to deal with. And sometimes it's just the ocean. But if you reframe that as the job itself is not the thing that I'm after, it's the process, the perpetual process of investigation, letting go, activating my creativity. If that process becomes the point, you're really liberated from the highs and the lows of what it is to be an actor, the peaks and the valleys. And that's within your control. That's something that you have agency over. As an actor, I really struggled with not having agency, not feeling like, a painter can go into a room and just paint. And I kept feeling like, why can't I just go into a studio and act? I need all these things. I need people. I need permission to do it. I need a space to do it in. I need somebody behind a camera. I need a camera, or I need a theater with lights. But if the project is actually the work on yourself, then you are in charge of that. And that's where I think real longevity in a career comes from.
I think that was a great way to end. And thank you so much. Give your dog a couple scratches for me.
I will. I don't know where he went, but I will.
And I think you're lovely. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Of course. Thank you so much, Lance. I love to talk about this.